Hi, I'm Julie McCluskey, Director of Communications and Community Engagement for Summit School District. And today we're shining the spotlight on a very important literacy program in Summit schools. The program's called Reading Recovery. And I'm here with Holly-Anna Bates, who is leading this charge for our district. And I think it's probably important, Holly-Anna, that we talk first about the importance of early literacy, the importance of children reading at an early age. I know that one of my favorite phrases is that in order for a child to learn, they must first be reading. Tell us a little bit about the significance when it comes to early reading and why it's so important for our kids.
Well, what we found is that in the 25 years of reading research, that when children aren't reading proficiently, which means meeting the targets where we'd like them to be, average with their peers, at the age of third grade, that their chances of succeeding in school and life are greatly reduced. So they're at, there's some big risks for dropping out of high school, which is quite serious, and mental health issues, unemployment, trouble with the law. There are just all kinds of things that can happen when reading isn't an enriching part of your life. So,
yes, and I know that children are learning to read until third grade, but then by third grade, they're reading to learn. And if they're not at grade level, then they're missing out on subject matter. They're missing out on content. And that's certainly important when you start exploring whether it's humanities, history, you start reading in math. It doesn't matter where that skill is applied. If you're not at grade level, then you're not learning the content.
yes, and I think it actually starts even in kindergarten. They're reading parts of their day that relate to content. So that reading is just so important all across the board, starting even in preschool. They have pre-reading. So it's exciting to think that we've come a long way with the research. We know so much more than we used to know, and that's why we have this early intervention, because we want to get to those kids who need extra help before it's too late.
That's great. So let's talk about reading recovery, which is one of many tools in our arsenal to make sure that kids are reading on grade level by third grade, if not sooner. But reading recovery really focuses on first grade. Let's talk about the program from a national perspective and then what you're doing here in Summit, Holly-Anna.
Okay. So Reading Recovery is actually an international reading intervention. It started in New Zealand, and it was part of someone's dissertation, and they realized it had such powerful effects it needed to move to even the United States. And there have been some strong successes. It's one of the few reading interventions that has a success rate across the board with all kinds of children. And the exciting part is that the average student in Reading Recovery makes 131% growth compared to what we'd hope for 100% for our average first grader. So,
let's stop and talk about that for a minute. So certainly in Colorado, as we've talked about statewide assessments, we've talked about growth before, and we hope that every student, no matter where they're at in their development, in their learning, will make 1 year's growth over the school year. So that would be 100%, 1 year's growth. But for students that aren't reading at grade level, they not only have to make a year's growth, but they have to catch up. So 131% actually puts them ahead of that, helps them gain ground rather than lose ground and catch up to their peers. Is that right?
Yes.
Great.
So it's important that we see that accelerative growth and that they're becoming proficient, not just making good gains.
Good.
Because we really want them to be highly successful. And so Reading Recovery has a national discontinuing rate, which means that we consider their reading at the successful meeting the target, which is about 75% of children. So if you think we're working with the hardest to teach, the lowest children in a given school in first grade, and they're becoming, strong readers, 75% of them. So that's very good results for that kind of a short-term intervention. It's between 12 and 20 weeks that the child gets this intervention, and it's one-on-one.
Great.
For 30 minutes a day with a highly trained teacher, which we can talk more about. So we are excited that Reading Recovery is at 47,000 students in our country are part of Reading Recovery every year, and in Summit schools we have Reading Recovery at every school. We are fully implemented, and that also means that we have an incredible safety net, because we are not going to miss anyone. And if they're in the lowest 20%, which means these are the kids who have a pretty extreme difficulty learning to read. This isn't someone who just struggles a little and could maybe benefit from a small group or classroom instruction. These are kids that if they don't get help, their chances of becoming readers is really slim. So we want to get them early in first grade. In kindergarten, we kind of know who needs extra help, but a lot of kindergartners grow a lot and mature a lot, and also sometimes it's just they just need some more language or some more practice, and then they don't, kind of teases out who has strong concerns about learning and who just needed a little extra help.
Now that's a great point, Holly-Anna. For so many of our kindergartners, it's their first time in a classroom. If a student hasn't had a preschool experience or an early child education environment before, they come to kindergarten and they are learning not only academic skills, reading and math, but they're learning social skills. And so yes, that kindergarten year, kind of a time for everybody to start to adjust and learn how to figure out that process, just literacy and or any other learning activity.
Yes.
So let's talk about the 30 minutes that a student spends with one of our teachers as part of the Reading Recovery program. What exactly would a student do during that 30-minute window, and how many times during the week is a student meeting with our literacy resource teacher or that teacher who has this specialized training?
So the nice thing about Reading Recovery is that we consider it such a strong intervention that they only meet with their Reading Recovery person. So during this 12 to 20 weeks, that is their big intervention, because it's the cognitive load on the child is a lot. The child is really having to do some work. The child doesn't know. The child thinks it's easy and lovely.
Yes.
But that's their big moment. There's a lot of brain activity going on, and so we don't want them to get more support later in the day where they might be tired, because they are doing such great work and their brains are changing. You can see their brains changing as they take on new information and they make links. Oh, this is like that. Yes, it's just they're on fire.
That's great.
So they have that 30 minutes every single day for 12 to 20 weeks. We start the first week of school. We assess with a special assessment, and it's easy to select who is really struggling the most, and we pick the lowest kids. So we just really want to make sure that we get the kids who need the most help.
Yes.
And so through that 30-minute lesson, the teacher is expertly designing books that are aligned with the child's interests and strengths. And we always teach from strengths. And when the child comes to the lesson, we want their theory about reading to be, I can do anything she tells me I can, and if I can't, she's going to help me, or the teacher's going to help me so that I know what to do. She's going to give me something that'll help me. So the child never feels like it's too hard, and the teacher has this way of interacting with the child through prompting and praising to move the child along just right in that zone of proximal development. We use a lot of Vygotsky's research, which teaches us that the child's always ready for just a little plus one, like the next tiny incremental step.
Excellent.
And if the step's too big, it's too hard. If you don't really get that next step in, then that moment for learning is kind of lost. So we're right on the edge of their learning, and we take really good notes, and we spend a lot of time planning that 30-minute lesson, because we have big ideas for those children for that time is so valuable.
Excellent.
And it's all contingent on what the child does. So it's one-on-one, and there's no lesson plan for every child has a different reading recovery experience.
I love that level of differentiation and the expertise that our teachers must bring to not only the planning, but the execution of that plan with each student. Tell us a little bit about the professional development and what it means to be a reading recovery teacher. What are our teachers, our staff, what are they going through with you to make sure they're ready for each of those specialized lessons?
Well, I always say that I have the best job because I get to work with students and teachers. And the teachers who have taken this training have really made a big commitment to being the best support they can be for those children, and also enriching their expertise as a teacher, because everything they learn in reading recovery, they then use with small groups or classroom students the rest of the day. So the impact is pretty great from their training. It's not just what you learn isn't just used with reading recovery, it's used with any child that you might be working with in reading. So they undergo about 100 hours of professional development in the first year.
Wow.
Yes. Every week we come to the central office and they have a 3-hour university class.
Oh, that's
and it's
wonderful.
a standardized kind of process throughout the United States that everyone who goes through training has a very similar experience. We have a special teaching room where children come to the central office and they work with a teacher behind this two-way glass, and the classroom of teachers who are learning get to watch this lesson, and our conversation is lifted by the experience of watching this child and this teacher interact. And it's really not about giving the teacher feedback, it's about what other decisions, what decisions do we have to make? What else could we do here? What if you had a child who was looking like this, and this text, what is another opportunity? So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to think about our own teaching and lift our teaching while we're watching this live lesson.
That sounds incredibly powerful, and I think one of the mistakes that is sometimes made is that our community assumes that anyone can help a child read. And that is true to a certain extent, right? The more that our kids are reading, the more that we get books in their hands, all very helpful in their growth as students, as learners, as readers. But we're really talking about giving our teachers a higher skill level in how to intervene and help students that are struggling with a variety of different challenges when it comes to gaining literacy skills and the ability to get through the words in a story and be able to learn by reading. It just sounds so powerful, Holly-Anna. If you were to be talking with parents right now and you had that moment to tell them why reading recovery is making a difference here in the lives of our kids, what would you say to them?
I'd say that there's so much that comes with being a strong reader. We see results in the children's math achievement also changing because the child understands how to learn, and they have, the role of confidence and motivation in learning is, I think, very underplayed. And the child gains a lot of confidence during reading recovery, and it impacts their whole life. Their behaviors improve in the classroom. They are better listeners. They are coaching other kids because they feel like they have some agency to share. And we just see that they're reading, they're pulling together all kinds of information. And a lot of the children that we have in reading recovery are learning a second or third language. So they are also, pulling together even more information than a student just, working on their native language. So what I would say to parents is that, it depends on who you are. If you've never had a child struggle and you haven't had to worry about them, you may not even understand how powerful it is to have such an effective intervention for kids. But if you've ever had a kid who struggles, you're helpless as a parent. You don't know how to help, and you really have to trust the school.
Yes.
And I know our parents are always so happy that reading recovery is here and grateful because they come to us in first grade and they say, "Oh, I didn't know this was such a big deal," or "I didn't know how to help," and this is, this is great. And all the parents come to a meeting and learn about reading recovery, and they also get to watch a lesson. So it's really a nice experience for the teacher and the child to work and to have the parent also get to watch. So I just think we have such a wonderful resource here in Summit, and we appreciate that the district has put some, good resources towards the kids who need it the most.
Awesome. We are seeing a number of our students in Summit School District at all 6 elementary schools participate in reading recovery. We're seeing them blossom and grow and make great gains so that they can get on the same grade level as their peers. Reading recovery includes lessons not only with reading but also with writing, all literacy skills. And the progress that our students are making is significant.
I could just share a little bit about that.
Yes, please.
We looked at 3 schools last year for a pre and post kind of data comparison. We have reading recovery now in 6, but last year we only had 4. And one school, Dillon Valley, has had reading recovery, so we couldn't do a pre-post. So we had 3 schools, and we looked at how many kids were meeting the target at the end of first grade before reading recovery, and then after 1 year of reading recovery in first grade, how are those, how did that change? And so we were about 40% of our kids were meeting this target, which is not wonderful. We definitely would like more kids to be proficient at the end of first grade. And at the end of the first year of reading recovery, that number went from 40% to 54%.
Wow.
So we had a 14% increase in how many kids were successful, proficient readers, and we expect that number to continue to grow.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Holly-Anna, thank you for your time today. We are going to take a few moments and observe a reading recovery lesson at play and encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about reading recovery, our efforts with early literacy, or ways to get involved to help our students make gains in the classroom. Please visit our website, summit.k12.co.us. And thank you, Holly-Anna. It was a great program.
Thanks for coming, Julie.
Yes.
And Leno, we're going to think about how we sound really smooth when we read, And if a word doesn't look right, what do you take the time to do as a reader? You
Read
keep
it?
going, or do you go back and
Go back and fix it.
go back and fix it? Okay.
Jolly Roger in the spy class. Jolly Roger had an old box with treasure in it. And gets the see.
Let's read it with your finger. Start again and read that tricky word with your finger.
Get the sails up, he shouted, your treasure.
And they got it all, gave all the treasure back, didn't they? You know what? I love what you did here. This word was tricky. But when you started the sentence again and thought about the story, you made sails look right and make sense there. That was good work.
Ratty Teddy was clever. No one could catch her. Ratty Teddy stole the woman's egg.
Oh no.
The woman
cried.
That Ratty Teddy is not good. I would catch her if I could, but she couldn't, so she didn't.
You're right. Keep going. Brent
had the
stereo
on. Yucca ducka, yucca ducka, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love the way that's sounding. Jason
had the TV on. Yucca ducka, yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's Mom.
Stop that noise.
Put that together like Mom would really say it.
Stop
that noise.
Mom yelled.
Yeah, she wants them to turn it off right then. Hi, we've been talking about reading recovery and the great successes here in Summit County, and we actually have a parent here whose child has been in reading recovery this year, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about Connor and his experience with reading recovery. So Jennifer, this is Jennifer Tyler. She's the mom of Connor.
Hi.
Hi. So tell us, Connor was in reading recovery this school year.
Yes, that's correct.
And he finished in February.
Yes.
And now he's reading like a hawk or something. I don't
Oh,
know.
it's amazing. Yes, he's doing so well compared to the beginning of the year.
Oh, that is so wonderful to hear. Jennifer has been so excited about the change in her son and how he's really changed his outlook and his confidence and also his success in reading. That also makes a big difference. That she wrote a letter thanking our school district for this opportunity, and so she's here today to read this letter. So we get to hear her experience and her appreciation for the work that all of us are doing across the district to help kids learn how to read.
Once the first grade began, we were told Connor would enroll in the Reading Recovery program. The change in Connor was seen almost immediately. Within 2 weeks, we were sitting down at night to read, and he wasn't in tears by the end of the book. He was excited to show us that he could read. He could figure out these words on his own. He looked forward to going to Reading Recovery so he could improve his reading. A big part of our success at home was the constant communication we had with Pam Menard, his reading recovery instructor. I was able to tell her what I saw with Connor, including that I thought he was an auditory learner, and she used that in her teachings with him rather than discounting it and continuing on with standard methods. She provided us with the strategies and tools to use at home when reading with Connor to help him figure out the words on his own rather than waiting for us to give him the answers. She encouraged my questions and had real solutions to offer for any issue we encountered as his reading progressed. I feel like she really cares about Connor's progress. The excitement she has for his continuing improvement is evident every time I speak with her. Even now, with his program being finished, I am thankful that she will be there to closely monitor his progress for the next 2 years. Not only has reading recovery improved Connor's reading and writing skills tremendously, it has positively improved his self-esteem as a person. His confidence levels in all aspects of his life have soared as a result of this. He's now one of the leaders in reading group rather than the one struggling to understand what's going on. I had another mother tell me her son asked if he can go into the reading recovery group because he recognized that these kids are going in there not knowing anything and coming out knowing how to read. I love that it is viewed as a positive with other children in school. I believe the reading recovery program is absolutely essential for students like Connor who need the individualized attention of this type of program in order to recognize their potential. Without this added benefit, I can only imagine the constant struggles Connor could have faced this year and into the future in all aspects of his learning. I hope this program is continued for the benefit of any child and family that has struggled with reading.
For more information about reading recovery in Summit County, please contact me, Holly-Anna Bates, at 970-368-1428 or by email hbates@summitk12.org.